In the first 6 years of her life, Donna Barton Brothers lived in 4 different homes and was cared for by 2 women, both of whom she came to love as her mothers. The first was Patty Barton, Donna's birth mother. The second was Annie French, a woman who cared for Donna and her brother Jerry for almost 4 years of time when the Barton family was in need. In 1972, Donna, her brother Jerry, and her older sister Leah all returned to live with their mother Patty, reuniting into a family that remains strongly connected today. However, Donna and her other mother, Annie, lost touch over the years, a separation that troubled Donna for over 4 decades. Then, the 2 women amazingly rediscovered each other through Facebook, and this year, Annie came together with the rest of Donna's family at the Kentucky Derby, where Donna was broadcasting the race for NBC Sports. While Donna was thrilled to have her 2 mothers together, she never imagined that at the end of their Derby visit, she would learn a story of her childhood that she never knew.
I was 6 years old. Annie came to Jerry and I and said, "Your mother wants you kids to come stay with her for the summer, but you don't have to go." And I remember thinking, why wouldn't we want to go? Like, I loved my mother even though I really didn't know her.
Right.
She had come to visit one time and she spent, to my recollection, one night. And I was attached to her. My heart was just attached to her. In any case, we said, yeah, we were thrilled. A few years ago when I had this conversation with my mom said, "It wasn't that way. You were coming to live with me." So knowing Annie, the chances are she wanted to see if it didn't work that we could come back. She wanted us kids to know that it was just a summer thing. I remember talking to her frequently on the phone once we first got there. And I think that her thing was like, if Patty can't take care of these kids, and she had no reason to believe that my mother could take care of 3 kids, if Patty can't take care of these kids, they're coming back here and that'll be that, you know. And I think she wanted us to not feel like we were being shipped off. I didn't find out until recently that that's how it happened. But to my mother's credit, you know, here's a woman who was not very maternal, quite frankly. My mother was pragmatic. She's a realist. She's a very optimistic realist. She's not a pessimist, but she's a realist. And here was a woman who was willing to give up her 3 kids to survive. And then when she got us back, fixed dinner every single night.
Really?
Every single night we had dinner at home. Like, I remember we would get a stop at McDonald's twice a year. It was quite a treat. Like, we didn't eat junk food. We weren't allowed to have soda. Yes, we had candy like most kids, but not a lot. There wasn't a lot of candy around the house.
Being a jockey, though, was her schedule anywhere near normal where she was home when you were home?
When we first went to live with her, she was riding at Waterford Park, which is now Mountaineer, and they had night racing. So she loved it. The morning part was actually kind of funny because she would be in jail now for the way that happened. So she would wake up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. She would wake up my sister, and my sister's job at 9 years of age was to get Jerry and I up, get us ready for school, and on that bus.
You go to school and most kids have a mother and father, or they have some kind of a more normal family. Do you feel like you fit in okay?
You know what? From the time we got in that car in New Mexico, Mom drove down to pick us up. We went down to Mexico because Alamogordo is right on the border of Juarez. Did a couple days vacation down there. But from the time we got in that car with Mom and all 3 of us kids together, it felt like we were home. Like, it didn't matter where we were as long as we were together. And that was really the way it always felt. Like, it always felt like as long as we were together, we were home.
On Mother's Day, you've got your mom and Annie gathered around the table. Do you sit back and just kind of, are you blown away by that? Do you marvel at it, or are you right in the middle trying to get as much out of it as you can?
We had a professional photographer come take pictures, and I wanted to absorb it and remember it and have photographs of it to remember. And I would honestly, to be honest with you, I'll say that the little girl inside of me had some concern that my 2 mothers might not get along. And fortunately, my 2 mothers are both very nice and very non-judgmental. And so while Annie is nothing like my mother, and my mother is nothing like Annie. Annie understands the situation that my mother was in and doesn't begrudge her the choices that she made. And my mother is so grateful that Annie was the person who ended up taking care of her kids for 4 years, even though it wasn't her choice. I mean, this just happened to be a woman from the church that my mom didn't know. So I was grateful for the fact that there was no animosity between the two of them.
Did your mom and Annie bring things to your life, dimensions to who you are? You've already said they're nothing alike. So have they made you a better or a more well-rounded person in any specific way because they are diverse?
So I went to college late in life. I was 36 years old. It was 2002. And my favorite course was psychology. And I really got psychology. Like, I've always studied people and what makes them do the things they do and behavioral patterns. And so in Psych 101, not only did I get the highest score in the class of 600, I got the highest score in the history of University of Louisville, because that's my thing, psychology. And so I understand what it means for somebody to have abandonment issues. Mm-hmm. And so that was one thing I never understood, is like, clearly we were abandoned. But my brother, my sister, and I have never expressed any sort of behavioral patterns that would suggest that we have abandonment issues. And I really never understood why, because clearly we were all abandoned. And it wasn't until I went down last year in June and visited Annie that I learned why we didn't have abandonment issues, because this woman is so filled with love that I could see how a 2-year-old girl ending up in her home and in her arms and in her presence and in her household would have felt instantly accepted.
In making the choice to not have children, was that a struggle for you based on the experience and the close ties that you have with 2 women that you consider to be your mothers?
My husband's older than me. He was 52 and I was 32 when we got married. We were just instantly attracted to each other when we started dating. He was a horse trainer and I was a jockey, and so we'd been on the track for a long time. So when we started dating, I was 26 and he was 46. We'd been seeing each other for about 2 weeks before we realized that. And
did that put the brakes on at all?
Mentally, we were both like, wow. Like, I thought we were like 12 years apart, and here we're like 20 years apart, right? And Frankie and I had talked about it, and I said, like, I'm afraid that we're going to get married and then you're going to want to have kids, and I really don't want kids. And he said, I have the same fear. And I was like, okay, deal. So now I'm 32 and he's 52, and it's about a month before we're going to get married. And my sister had 4 children. I called my sister up and said, okay, I feel like I've never wanted kids, but I'm only 32. Like, what happens if, like, in a couple of years I decide I do want kids? I mean, he clearly doesn't want kids. And Leah said, that's not going to happen. And I said, why do you say that? And she said, because you're not maternal. And I said, so seriously, you just think I'm not maternal? She said, Donna, a lot of women aren't maternal. And I said, really? You really think there are women who are not maternal? She said, do you think our mother was maternal? And I said, no. So my sister helped me to realize it, that I just clearly wasn't maternal. I feel like I'm loving and I feel like I'm nurturing, but I don't feel like I'm maternal. And I've never regretted not having babies. Now I'm 50, and so, like, I said to my sister recently, I was like, the only bad thing about not having kids is that, like, now I'm not going to have, like, those older kids to take care of me, like, when I get older, right? And she said, Donna, I have 4 kids. They'll take care of us. Don't worry about it.